Hey, it didn't take long. Call this meeting to order. The Board of County Commissioners would invite you to stand for an invocation from Todd Luce of Grandview Christian Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Good morning, Todd.
Good morning.
Would you bow with me, please? Gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you today and we ask a blessing upon this meeting as the commissioners look at different things and items and agendas, Lord, for our county. Help them to do what's best for our county and for the people that live here. Lord, give them a blessing as well for being willing to serve, Lord. We thank you for all you've done for us and for where we live and the freedom that we have. Pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Glad to see Richard's in the audience. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Payne,
Present.
Commissioner McFall,
Present.
Commissioner Bell,
Present.
County Attorney Jackson,
Present.
County Manager Bryant,
Present.
Planning and Zoning Coordinator Butler.
Present.
Move on to the approval of agenda. Is there any changes?
Mr. Chairman, I am unaware of any changes we need to make to today's agenda. Therefore, I move for approval as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bell,
Aye.
Commissioner McFall,
Aye.
Commissioner Payne,
Aye.
motion carries.
Move on to the consent agenda. I want to note that there is a scheduled public hearing on December 11th, 2018 at 10 a.m. for medical marijuana business licensing regulations. Other than that,
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner McFall,
Aye.
Commissioner Bell,
Aye.
Commissioner Payne,
Aye.
motion carries.
Move on to staff and elected officials reports. We'll start out with the county clerk's monthly report, August and September.
Okay, for the month of August, total motor vehicle fees, sales taxes, and recording fees collected for August 2018 were $1,302,820.85. Fremont County's portion for disbursement is $756,014.89, which is 58% of the total fees and is $47,298.83 more than August of 2017. Year-to-date, our office is up $379,812.62 from last year. The clerk's report for the month of September 2018, total motor vehicle fees, sales taxes, and recording fees collected for September 2018, $1,040,778.19. Fremont County's portion for disbursement is $594,696.69, which is 57% of the total fees and is $33,789.25 less than September of 2017. Year-to-date, our office is up $346,023.37 from last year.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I move to accept both the August and September reports from the county clerk. I also would just like to note, we generally do these a month after. We don't tend to wait 2 or 3 months, but the state recently mandated, as many of you may have heard, a complete overhaul and systems upgrade for all of the software that the clerk uses. And it has been nothing but trouble, not only for Fremont County, but for pretty much every other county that's out there. We have seen emails that have gone back and forth between county clerks to the state, and we have seen what some of the problems are. So although it may sound like our Fremont County Clerk's Office has been delayed in getting these numbers out, we're really proud of them for working through the issues that they've had to work through, and hope you all understand that they actually are doing a very good job there. So thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Are any further discussion?
No, just other than to give kudos to the staff up there in the motor vehicles and the clerks. Because of that software change, they've had to work really hard, and appreciate all of them.
Okay. Roll call.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Commissioner McFall?
Aye.
Commissioner Payne?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Move on to the county manager's report. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, Sunny.
So just a quick update on a few projects that we're working on. We're finalizing the budget process, so at the end of the public hearings today, it'll be the budget public hearing, so if anybody's interested in that, stick around. It's actually posted on the county's website, so if anybody wants to go on and look at the entire proposed budget, it's available on our website. And we continue to move forward with the Hayden Pass project. So Commissioner McFall and I will be attending a meeting this evening at 6 o'clock up in that area to have discussions with the citizens that are impacted in the first portion of this project. We have a kickoff meeting for the EPA Brownfields grant on December 6th. So we're meeting with our coalition partners, and we're very excited to get that project up and running. The Phantom Canyon Tunnel Rehab project is scheduled to start on December 3rd, so the contractor has given us a date. They're hoping to have that done in the month of December, so Phantom Canyon Road will be closed during that time to do that rehab. And just a quick overview of that, we actually did receive a grant from the Department of Local Affairs for $100,000 to go towards that project, so we're very grateful for those funds coming in. And then the last item is we're actually working to build a shade structure out at the War Memorial Park to cover the In God We Trust that's out there, the display that's out there. So hopefully that will be done in the month of November, and I think it'll be a great addition to that area out there. Unfortunately, the sun has beat down over that display and has kind of taken its toll on that, so we're hopeful to get that done and get that renovated to last quite some time. So that's all I have for now.
Okay, thank you. Any other elected officials and or staff?
Yes, briefly, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Most of you probably realize 2 days ago we did celebrate Veterans Day here in the great United States of America. As both the daughter and the mother of veterans, I simply would like to say thank you to every single one of you who served. This country truly would not be what it is without you, and I just wanted to recognize that and say thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
I agree. No, just thankful for the snow and moisture. Hope we get a lot more.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to citizens who wish to address the commissioners on matters not scheduled on the agenda. I got a couple here. First off, Bradley Harris, you come up. Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Steve, Canyon City. I apologize if I'm doing anything wrong.
If you could speak into the microphone a little bit more.
This is
thank
my
you.
first time. Sorry if I mispronounce something or my vocabulary is off a little bit. I am a little bit passionate about a subject I'd like to touch on, so forgive me for being a little excited about it, but let me give you a little bit of background. I grew up here in Canyon City, 34 years now. So just did construction growing up. I'll try to get to my point. I'll just give you a little background. So my wife and I were trying to build. We're looking for property. This is why I'm here. Looking, the codes and the laws, the permitting, I'm sure some of you are familiar with that and the ins and outs of that. So we're trying to build, and I want to, who here believes that water's gold? I do. I think water's gold. So this is the issue I'm running into. I'm trying to build a house. I'm self-sustainable. I can do solar power. I want to completely go off the grid. But unfortunately, the laws here that we have in town, the coding, won't allow me to do that. And for the life of me, I can't understand why. On one subject, I have a plethora of potential issues I'd like to talk about. Well, one in particular, sanitation. I'm not allowed to use composting toilets. Can anybody explain to me why? There's codes. In the code, I cannot use a compostable toilet. I can only use septic, and that really puts a blockade. That puts a damper on things when I'm trying to go off the grid, because I can't get a permit to get a composting toilet. So I think our codes need to be overhauled. I'm just trying to save water here. Guess how many billions of water this country uses in just waste sanitation? It's just waste alone. We use 123 billion gallons of water just in wastewater, okay? I think that's a little excessive. And I know it's, we need to start thinking about it now, because come on, look at our resources. They're streaming down to other states. So I'm just looking for answers. I got a bunch of other things I'd like to talk to about sustainability. I think we're in the Stone Age, fellas, and if I have to fight the code, I'll take it to my death. I'll fight the code, but please, let's work together as a community. Let's take advantage of our resources. Please, people. I mean, I'm getting all shaky, but that's really all I wanted to touch on. I don't know what I'm going to have to do next, but I'll do whatever it takes just to get a composting toilet.
Okay, well, I'll talk to our building department on that, and we'll take a look at our codes on that.
Thank you.
Do
Okay?
you live in the city or the county, outside of the city limits?
County.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Richard Hollenbaugh. Good morning, Richard.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Pleasure to be here today. And yes, we had some wonderful moisture. Tallahassee just had 2 feet of snow. Yes.
Is that all?
You guys are pikers compared to us up there. But yeah, plowed a foot on Sunday and another foot yesterday. So we're real thrilled with potential moisture that we're getting. Which brings me to a subject that concerned me the other day. Back on, I believe it was the 23rd, when we had that tragic accident going up 8 Mile. That was a terrible fatality accident. And my wife and I were in the lineup of the mile-long wait, or 2 or 3 mile long wait. We didn't see what was that much behind us, but in the process of this, with all the hundreds of emergency lights and vehicles and the first responders, et cetera, that came up, after about an hour and a half, we saw our county coroner come up, driving about 5 miles an hour, and he didn't have any emergency lighting on his vehicle. And I looked at Roxanne and I said, well, what is this? He's just as important as any other first responder would be, and we're having him come to accidents like this all over the county to do what they have to do, remove fatalities, et cetera, and he doesn't have emergency lighting. And I wondered to myself, why is that? We just got him a new truck here a year or so ago, or maybe a little longer, I don't remember, and I thought he would have emergency lighting by now. Is there some particular good reason why he doesn't have emergency lighting on his vehicle responding to emergencies?
We have a difference of opinion, I suppose, on state statutes there. He wants, would that be a right verbiage? I'm not sure. But he wants emergency lights like red and white, and our state statutes say he has to have like yellow and white.
So I want to take that a little further. First of all, Richard, the coroner is not a first responder. That is for police and ambulance and that type of stuff. The coroner is called if needed after it's been determined whether there's a death or not. And we have put it in the coroner's hands to come up with quotes to put lights on his vehicle. And we did that probably 4 months ago and haven't heard back from him. So that's the reason there's no lights on his pickup right now.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, even wreckers, the what do you call? I can't say the word. A wrecker.
Tow truck.
Tow
Sure.
truck. They have lights on theirs.
Yep.
They're yellow, but they're
Yeah,
lights.
they're yellow, but they're lights.
And,
Yeah.
And I don't know that whether they're blue and white or red, white, and blue or whatever they would have to be, but it seems that he should have
Sure. Yeah,
identification when he's
we're
there.
waiting to hear back from him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Okay,
all.
thank you.
That's all I got. Thank you very much.
Okay. Next up, we have Bob Willett. Oh. It's not public hearing, but. Okay, Bob. All right. No other citizens to speak with items, okay? There is no old business on the agenda. We'll move on to new business, which is request for a conditional use permit, Taylor Ranch Exploration. This is CUP 10-003. Do we have Michael Rudder? Come on up.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so you're wanting an extension
Yes.
on the original conditional use permit?
That's correct.
Okay. How's the reclamation going up there? I guess I'll start with that.
The reclamation is pretty much at 90% on all the wells that not being used. The piezometers are in the stage of now getting finished reclamation. That'll probably be wrapped up probably in spring. There's about 8 wells that'll be totally reclamated. The rest of them we want to keep going to get data as the project gets going. So that's kind of why we want to keep this permit going as well. Is we got some wells that we're going to be drilling out in the next couple of years. So to refile for all these permits, figure we just extend it and keep things going.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I guess I'm a little confused. You said you want to keep these for when the project gets going.
There's a lot of wells out, there's quite a few wells out there. These wells that were getting reclamated at piezometers, they're no longer needed, they're no longer in use, so those are what's getting reclamated. The rest of the wells will keep there for future.
With no foreseeable future to continue exploration,
Well,
according to your letter.
well, you want to keep the wells in there to keep data going as we get going, because the county may ask us to put more wells in later. So if we already got the wells in there, we want to keep those in for now. I want to get another company involved as things get going to be able to determine whether we do need those or do not. What I'm finding out is that we do want to keep those wells in there for now.
There, you said it again, as things get going.
Well, if the price comes up and we want to decide to keep going with it, then we'll keep going.
Okay, when's the last time you did any drilling out there at all?
I think it was 2014, I believe, is when the last. It was a company, the original Black Ridge company. We acquired them a few years ago.
Okay.
Staff report? Staff report?
Have staff report, please.
Okay, they have requested a 4-year extension of the exploration activity that's authorized under CUP 10-003. This property is located south of County Road 2 in the Tallahassee area. And the other thing that I might note is in the correspondence, we did find out that they have decided at this point not to renew their lease with the Boyer Ranch on the property, which would be a considerable reduction in size. You know, we've always kept permits active while they had a reclamation.
Okay, so what, is that what's outlined in red?
Okay, what's outlined in red was the original boundary of the property, and then you can see in the lower right-hand portion is where they amended it and added acreage. The Boyer property is a large area in the southern portion of the original boundary, which would almost turn it into two different locations if it's excluded.
So like that, where it says Walker Drive, that's what you're calling the southern portion and above that, is that right?
Right.
So that lease is not part of this? Okay.
Now, it's included in the original, but they've elected not to renegotiate their lease.
So you're looking at two different parcels of land, essentially?
Two different boundaries.
Two different boundaries. Okay.
So, Marshall, this is CUP 10-0003, that's up there 08001 and 10-001. Is this 03 an amended conditional use permit from those two?
Yes. It was the final one, or the most current one.
It was what, I'm sorry?
It was the most current.
Okay. Any questions?
No.
Okay.
I'm not sure if they can keep their wells in place if the CUP isn't extended. You may want to table it so we can check that.
But. I guess
Okay.
that's one thing where I guess I'm still confused about. So there are some wells still in place, but there's nothing being done with them.
Nothing happening with them right now. We've got a lot of our data with it, but the reason why I want this permit for is I want to be able to get more research done on this to see what we're going to need, what we're going to have. I don't want to take them away if we're going to need them or going to use them.
Is it your understanding that you have to close down all the wells if your CUP is not extended?
That's correct.
Okay.
And that's why I'd like to keep them open.
Okay, while this is not a public hearing, we did have one request to speak. So Bob Willett, I'm going to allow you to speak.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. This has been going on a long time. And I think Lee, Walter, sent you guys a memo about the thing. So I think you pretty well described it. I can't say anything more than that. But basic thing is it's right, in my case, right across the road from where I'm at, and a bunch of my neighbors. So as you well know, there's a lot of them up there that have radiation problems with their water, and I think I sent Dwayne a letter over the weekend about it, and basically they've had plenty of time, I think, to study this thing, and it's been studied to death long before these guys got here. And just to continue it and continue it and continue it, it's kind of ridiculous to, at least in my mind, to expose me and my neighbors to potential radiation contamination of our water. Nobody knows how that's going to react. We've all got wells. We all live off those things. A lot of people have had to spend a lot of money just to get filtration systems in there to be able to use the water, and they still don't drink the stuff. So, anyway, I'm against it. I think a lot of my friends and close neighbors are against it as well. So, I would recommend that you not approve an extension of the CUP.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Okay, any other questions, comments?
I guess a couple of comments, Mr. Chair. First, the letter that we have very clearly explains it is not feasible for Black Range to continue exploration at this time. I had not heard the explanation that if the CUP is not continued, we would not be able to look at the wells that are already there. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. Simply because I would hate to see the CUP stopped and then 2 years from now have Black Range come in with a brand new CUP saying, application saying we have to re-drill every one of those wells, and I don't think anyone else would want to see that either. So I don't know what the answer is.
Okay.
So I have another question for you. Also in your letter, it says that you're gonna be removing the surface materials, stormwater materials, cables and buckets, et cetera, from the piezometer locations. What does that mean exactly?
Well, we got the, like I said, the wells that had the old piezometer system that was in there, those are being taken out. They were covered with buckets, some fencing and everything else. I've gone up there and I've pulled everything out other than the piping. There's some steel piping in there I couldn't get out, but those are the only things that's left there. Other than that, it's been 90% reclamated now, let's say 95 now. So this spring I'll go back there and get those pulled out, and then I'll close out those wells. The monitor wells that are there, we want to keep open, like I said, in case we want to do something else with it, or, you know, may give me a couple more years to decide what we need to do with it.
And what do those wells have on them as far as the meter or whatever? What's
There's piping in the ground, and that's it. They're all capped off, closed up.
with a bucket?
No,
Oh.
they're steel cased
Okay.
with the lid on them, and they're locked.
So you have to have the CUP for the monitoring wells?
Have you considered a modification of the CUP for just monitoring as opposed to
Well-
the full range of exploration?
Yes, and I thought about that as well, and that's been recently. That could go into effect. We may end up, you know, filing for that. I was talking with Tim with the state about that, and we're working on that. It just came up. I didn't realize it, so that's why I went ahead and wanted to file for the 4-year extension so I can get that rolling. Because I didn't even know that this permit, like I said, we just took them over not that long ago, so that's where I'm at.
So because I have concerns too that the area up there has changed probably significantly since your first application, with people moving in and whatnot, and then obviously you've cut ties with some of the landowners, and so it's going to strengthen things. So a modification may be the best course of action there.
Okay.
Just for monitoring.
For monitoring.
I agree with that. I think that would be the route to go.
Okay.
Would we still
You
want to
have to table it.
this then?
Yeah, let's do that, or at least we take a look at that.
Because I think there's some unanswered stuff there as far as the residents and whatnot go. And Bob is not the only one we've heard from. My email blew up all weekend from
Oh, I'm sure it
residents
did.
being concerned
Sure
about this. And I got to keep that in my mind all the time. With that, Mr. Chair, I would move to table this, CUP 10-003.
For a month.
For a month, yeah, let's see. I need to get to my calendar now.
Let's see.
Sorry. December,
11th.
till December 11th, yeah, December 11th meeting, where we can get some more information on this and see which way to move forward with.
Well, and take a look at see if we can get to that monitoring. Okay. You good with that?
I'll second that simply because I am not looking very kindly upon an extension of an entire CUP simply to be able to monitor. So I think tabling would be the best thing we could do today.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner McFall?
Aye.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Commissioner Payne?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, we got a couple minutes before 10. We'll move on to item number 2, approval of a memorandum of agreement between City of Canyon City, the City of Florence, and Fremont County for the Brownsville Assessment Coalition. I believe, Sonny, you have something on that?
Yes, I do. So actually, both the City of Canyon City and the City of Florence's city councils have approved this. This is establishing the coalition. We're all going to work together to determine the brownfield sites that we then assess and then work towards doing the reclamation on. So we're requesting approval of the MOA with those two entities.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Chair, I am really excited to see this project get going. The MOA is simply the next step in that, so I move to approve the memorandum of agreement between the City of Canyon City, the City of Florence, and Fremont County for the Brownfields Assessment Coalition.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Commissioner McFall?
Aye.
Commissioner Payne?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 3, acceptance of a proposal for a 3-year engagement for the Fremont County Financial Audit and Authorization for Chairman's signature on an engagement letter. Sonny?
Yes, so we actually received, so we put out the request for proposals. We received 3 proposals. We received one from Logan and Associates, Hinkle and Company, and McPherson, Breyfogle, Daveline, and Goodrich. The lowest bidder and what we feel is a very responsible bidder would be Logan and Associates. So I'm recommending that we enter into a 3-year engagement with Logan and Associates. The fees for 2018 to do our entire audit are $26,000. For 2019, it's $24,900, and for 2020, it's $24,900.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, I'd move to accept that recommendation. Thank you. From sign and approve Logan and Associates LLC for the audit. Proposed 3-year engagement for Fremont County financial audits, and authorize the chairman's signature on the engagement letter.
I'll second that with the note that although we have not had Logan and Associates do a full audit for the county, we have done some work with them. We have been very impressed and happy with the work that they've done.
okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner McFall?
Aye.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Commissioner Payne?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, the hour has reached 10 o'clock. We'll start our public hearings. First up is a request for OPC. It's optional premise cultivation for 14-011 Pure Medical. Do we have Jason Vanstrom? Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is James Marks. I'm here to represent Pure Medical and Jason Vanstrom.
Carly Van Arnhem, manager of the company.
Okay.
We have a slideshow.
Okay, so you were just here
We were-
earlier in the year.
Yes,
Twice?
twice.
Gosh, just love it.
You know, we understand the pressure that some people put on you from the community over this issue. We do not take this lightly. This is just something that this business really requires to prosper and help continue to support the community. You know, as you know, I attend some of the meetings out there. I live at that residence. You know, we are a homestead, and that's the aim that we plan to project. We are not like most of the other facilities there, so we hope that you will look at us as the individual that we are.
We have a slideshow to hopefully help understand what it is that we're kind of asking for. On the first slide, we can go to the next one. So this is just basically a diagram of our facility. The new building that we're asking for is up in the left-hand corner there, the proposed 60 by 70 building. The building next to it already exists, as does the little square down in the corner by the 8-foot gate. The red boxes are the canopies that have been approved, however they have not yet been constructed. And then the little black box kind of down on the lower left is our existing canopy structure that's been there since we started leasing the facility. Also on the property is the house where James lives and his shed. So that's basically just a diagram of the property. The next slide is a layout of the proposed building. Oh, back one. So basically is what we're asking for. This is the first level of the building we're requesting. The majority of it is a vegetation area, and I believe that we discussed previously that when we were here before, the main goal of this building is one, to provide vegetation and a mother area so we can continue to propagate for our outdoor crops. We will also have a bathroom and a wash stall. Currently, we do not have any employee bathrooms on site. We actually, for this last harvest, had to rent a porta potty. James came in and talked to you guys to apply for the permit for a porta potty for our employees to use. It's really not a sustainable solution. So this building would include full facilities and a wash stall. We'd also have an additional harvest room. To the right of the harvest room, the multi-use and flower, that would basically be built out in stages. Although we have flower on the diagram, we really don't intend to do any flowering in this building until probably 2020 at the earliest. The main purpose of the building right now is for vegetation, harvesting, storage, and employee sanitation. We're asking for it now so we don't have to come back in a couple of years if we see the need for expansion. But again, no real flowering is going to occur a whole lot, certainly not in the next year or so.
From this, from the previous time we were here, this side of the building, we conceded 20% of that.
We did shrink that down.
We're trying to show you, like, that is not the main focus of this building. It really is not.
Yeah. The purpose isn't to grow more, it's to be more efficient.
It's to contain all, previously, when we've asked for the smaller building, it's because we had to grow in the springs that worked in conjunction with this. So we were foreseeing buying that facility, so we asked for the bare minimum, because we know that the citizens are concerned with this. That option to purchase expired, so this is really the option that we need to pursue to be private business.
You'll notice on the application that it does say it's a 2-story building, so on the next slide, the second story would just be that middle section. So it's just about a 1,300 square foot second floor up above, and that would contain our security office where we could put our DVRs and surveillance equipment. Right now it's down in the existing barn. It's in with all the grow equipment. It's really not the most ideal location for sensitive security equipment, so we'd have a separate office, separate storage, and then pretty much all drying racks upstairs. Now, I've got a few more slides to help hopefully convey the reason why we're asking for it. This was this year's harvest, and I apologize we didn't get great pictures because I hadn't really thought of including them in here. But it's very cramped. We have all of our drying racks, all of our trimmers, as well as all of our vegging and mother plants all in one 1,200 square foot building. Now, previously we had the building in Colorado Springs that James was talking about, so we didn't have any moms or vegging plants. We don't have any place for those now, yet we have to keep the genetics alive for next year's harvest. So it was all crammed into this little 1,200 square foot building, and it's really inefficient. The next slide will show also, due to lack of space and lack of drying area, because of the additional vegetation we're doing now, we had losses of about $170,000 due to this last frost, because we did not have the space to harvest all of our crop. So it was left outside when it should have already been harvested had we had this building. We would have had the drying space to take all of this product down.
In that multi-use room, that's why we're labeling that multi-use, because should this happen in the future, there's not going to be flowering going on in that room. That room's going to be made to bring down the entire crop, bring it inside. That's why flowering is not our main focus. This is our main focus.
Yeah, we don't want to grow more. We just want to process what we're already growing. Next slide. There's also some best practices that have been put out recently by labs, the state, and various other companies. Best practices for sanitation, ideal keeping of the product, curing of the product, enabled to ensure that we can pass contaminant, pesticide, and mold and yeast testing. We need to be able to isolate our trim and curing rooms. We cannot do that right now because we have to veg in our current trim and curing rooms. We need to eliminate excess moisture. These mother plants, these clones that we're growing, keep the relative humidity of the building up, what was it, 82% one day, I believe? We need to be able to control access. We can't do that if we have to have all of our staff in one building. And we need to be able to maintain positive air pressure, which again is difficult bringing plants in and out of the same room where you're trying to cure your product. We cannot conform or adhere to these practices with our current facilities. Next slide would be also, again, it's going to provide bathrooms, wash stalls, separate rooms for trimming, drying, curing, so we can adhere to best practices, and a separate security office, again, to keep our DVR and all of our sensitive surveillance equipment separated and safe. So we are in the agricultural rural district. It does appear that this building would conform to the definition of an accessory building. It contributes to the comfort and convenience, the necessity with a wash stall and a bathroom. Again, it's not to grow more, it's to sustain the outdoor, which is already approved. And then, of course, I believe the last time in the appeal, on the next slide, we have the right to farm. We do know that the county passed regulations, as did the state of Colorado, to conserve and enhance ranching, farming, and all agricultural activities. educate longtime residents as well as operators so we can work together. That's kind of why we put this slideshow together. We want to let you guys know we're not here just to blow up your county and grow more cannabis. We just want to do it the right way.
On that same note, this right here is the main line that I feed this garden with. This is a 3/4 inch line. That's
Not
not much
industrial.
water. I mean, I believe the car wash down the road has a 2-inch or 2.5-inch line that feeds that. This is really what restricts me. The main line for that street is a 2-inch. It's one of the oldest ones in the area that I am aware of. So I believe there's a moratorium on water taps still. No, we would have to upgrade the main line in order to upgrade our thing, and
We're not trying to do
we're
that.
not trying to do that. We can sustain solely off of this.
And then on the next slide, this is the ILC we had done back in April or May with our first application of modification. The next slide will show the square footages of all the existing buildings on the property. And the next slide gives you the percentages. So existing structures, we're covering about 3.76%. The approved yet not built canopies will account for another 8.25%. The new building is only 1.3, which keeps us at 13.32% total coverage, which is under the allowable 15%. So we're not maxing that out. And a little bit of comfort for the citizens, if we do build this building, there's not a whole lot more room. We're not going to be able to come ask you for anything else because we're getting close, but not exceeding that 15%. The next slide, I thought this was important to note. So the large black box, that's the property line. What you see circled in red is actually the licensed premise. So I know from like the property diagrams and things that it can appear that we're maxing out the parcel, but we're not. We're only, with this new building, would be only using about 10.9% of the entire property for the licensed premise. So it's a small portion of the property that's being used as a marijuana grow. It's not the entire property like many of these other licensed facilities are. We're set back pretty far from the property lines, so that hopefully puts that into perspective a little bit better. The next slide, I believe we're going on into the concerns that have been expressed in previous public hearings. Plant count has been brought up a lot. I want to stress that plant count is not determined by local authority, by square footage of the grow, or the size of the licensed premise. It is solely determined by the number of registered patients at our vertically integrated storefronts. So the approval of this building does not allow us to grow more plants, nor does the denial of the building limit our capability to grow more plants. It just limits our capability to harvest. Another one that was a concern, seasonal grow versus year-round grow. In all actuality, we're going from about 10 months of cultivation to 12 months of cultivation. The reason being, when we had our facility in Colorado Springs, James would bring the clones down about mid-January, and we kept them inside the buildings until we put them out in the spring, and then it would take us through November to harvest them. So you're looking at about the middle of January to the middle of November total growing that we've always had. So we're really not moving from seasonal to year-round. We're just expanding from 10 months to 12 months. And again, flowering would be minimal, mostly just as part of the normal plant cycle to keep the genetics alive. Main purpose is vegetation, propagation, harvest, storage. I think I've got another slide after this one. So odor mitigation, we're going to be using the same odor mitigation that we've used in our previous building. The outdoor is unmitigated completely, and we didn't receive one complaint this year during harvest. We've already harvested the whole field, so during peak odor time, we haven't had any complaints. Throughout the year, when we're just vegging inside of our current building with the odor mitigation we haven't received any complaints. The people living in closest proximity, our closest neighbor has actually sent in letters in support of our operation, and other than that, the person in closest proximity to us that spoke at the last public hearing did mention that the main cause of her concern was the operation on C Street, which is year-round greenhouses, which is a completely different setup than what we have.
This building will not have see-through roofs, so there's not going to be the light leak. There's no cooling walls. Any all the air coming into the building will be scrubbed, as well as all the air going out of the building. So there's not that potential for the problems that exist with the other facilities around us.
This is the map of the complaints that we have received over the years. We're that star down on the lower side. Number 3 is the one that I mentioned that talked at the public hearing before. Other than that, 1, 2, 4, and 5, and 5 is the only address I've received a letter for this hearing. They're across town from us. So I don't know how much of an impact we're having directly on our closest neighbors, but we are in communication and we are trying to make sure that we're doing something that suits our needs but doesn't create impositions for our neighbors. We didn't have any complaints from 2013 to 2016. We've never had any until public hearings became mandatory. We didn't have any during harvest this year and last year. And the only time we've ever received complaint letters are after our public hearing notifications have gone in the paper or our sign put up on the property. And last but not least, we've got buildings on our street. There's metal buildings. This is just a couple examples. There's metal buildings up and down 8th Street. And the last slide shows our facility. The new building would be back behind those trees directly to the right of the brown building. And it would look very similar to that building. So they're not right up on the street. It's not obtrusive. It's not an eyesore. Blends in quite nice.
Okay, any questions?
I do have one quick question before we open up to the public. I apologize in advance for asking this question, simply because Pure Medical has been in front of us so many times. I'll leave it at that. Don't you already have permission to build an employee restroom with a harvest room? Did we give you that permission at one time?
So the reason we didn't ask for that is this property worked in conjunction with our other property in the Springs. So my full-time employees worked out of the Springs. And so I could use the restrooms in the house. So that when I worked down there, it was easy to for me just to use those restrooms. But now that I'm having to move my full-time employees down there, I either have to leave my house unlocked for them, or those types of things when I'm not there. So we're looking to make it to where everybody has access to bathrooms at all times.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So I have one question, or more of a comment probably. I guess my opinion of a year-round grow and yours is totally different, because you claim you're not making more plants. I get that, not the plant count, but you are turning it into a year-round grow, in my opinion, because you currently do not have plants there year-round, correct?
No, I do have plants there year-round. So even previously, what would happen is there's only that month about November through December I didn't have plants there, and that's just only because I wasn't in the stage of propagation. In a sense, I'm a farmer right now fighting for my seed bank. That's what I'm fighting for right now, in a sense. My clones are my seed bank. That's my genetic bank. We kept the moms up in Colorado Springs, but come the 1st of January, I would transfer clones down to this grow and start propagating additional mom plants to pull more clones off. So
Additional mom plants is not expanding the plant count?
No, it swells and then it goes away.
The moms get bigger and then he takes all the clones
I'll
off
have
of
to,
them.
for every strain that I have, I need to grow, 10 or 15 moms to get the amount of cuttings I need to propagate for that year. So, but then come the rest of the time, I downsize those numbers when we don't need to be pulling those types of clones off.
So like we mentioned before, it's going from having plants at the facility for about 10 months a year to 12 months a year. So it is going to be used year-round, but in previous years, since our inception, we were still cultivating on the site for about 10 months a year. Just for the majority of the year, the plants are kept in a vegetative state where they're not producing flowers, which produces the odor. It'll pretty much be the same. We'll just have the mother plants that we were propagating the initial set of clones and then bringing to this facility. We'll just have them there at this facility because we no longer have the facility in Colorado Springs.
So as of right now, in years past, I typically didn't have plants there. Right now, I do have 1 to 2 of every one of my strains, mother plant.
So you do currently have that there?
Yeah.
Yes.
And it can.
Yeah.
Well, no, I know it can. It's just so you're already doing it. So what's the?
Yeah,
We just need more space.
Will this add any employees?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I actually had to lay off about 7 employees, quite a few of which I've hired directly from Penrose, Florence. We are trying to support the community and provide industry. The other night I went to a meeting for the Neighborhood Watch, and a lot of people were crying out for industry. And then there was a lot of people that were saying, no, we don't need industry. But Penrose has been an agricultural community from its founding. From what I understand, I actually live in one of the original homesteads. I met a gentleman, he came up to the house one day and was taking pictures. I went out and talked to him, and he was the great-great-grandson of the people that built the house. And I invited him in, let him take as many pictures as he wanted to take back to his mother, who was hoping that the house was still standing. We're looking to be good stewards of the land. The door frame between the kitchen and the living room has marks of children heights going back as far as 32. I didn't sand that off. I didn't paint over it. That's, we're trying to be good stewards of the land and, bring this homestead property back to a prime state.
Okay.
Just have a different crop.
Thank you. Is there any other?
No, not right now.
Let's have a staff report. Marshall?
Well, this is the third request for modification. And this modification would allow for the construction of a 60 by 70 square foot building, which is about 600 square feet less than what was requested in the second modification. We have received some emails, a couple for and a couple against. Those are included in your packets. Do you have any questions?
Any questions from Marshall?
Nothing from me at this time.
Okay, this is a public hearing, so I will now open the public hearing. I had one request to speak. Tyler Hernan?
Tyler?
Tyler? Sorry.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I spoke last time there was a hearing as well, and I told you guys that these were great people that kept me employed when I really needed employment. Now that this expansion was denied, I've lost my employment. So, and I've been, living in this town since I was born. I was born in Canyon City, raised in Fremont County, and the county has denied my job basically. So it kind of hurts, and I just wanted to let you guys know that that's something that's happening. There's people that have been, they've had their jobs taken away because of this expansion denial. So I don't have much to say. That's basically it, but I wanted you guys to know that this is a job that I've been denied, and I've lived here my whole life. They're trying to look out for the people in this county, and they're doing as best they can.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak on this issue? Come on up, have you fill out a slip, please.
You can speak first.
Bradley Harris. I'm all about having some health-conscious growers in the community. Having worked at Maggie's Farm, I can tell you the issues they had there. No sanitation for the employees. I'm not kidding you. So the fact that they're talking about having a place for their employees to wash hands just is a milestone. But it's steps further than what Maggie's has right now. And I just appreciate better product. Something, Maggie's is turning into a monopoly around here, and I don't believe in their practices, so I'm really about pure medical being part of our community.
Okay.
You have a pen?
She'll take care of you there. Thank you. Anybody else want to speak? Come on up. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, my name is Roger McKissick, and I live down at the end of 8th Street. I've stopped and talked to a few of the homeowners, and they have voiced opinion. I don't know. I go by there every day, and I just now saw a sign go up. week ago, or at the most 2 weeks ago. And I don't know how long they're supposed to be up, but I would think 30 days, just so everybody could see it.
A sign for the public hearing, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
10 days.
And I got a couple different things, you know, the smell, if they could, if we could get rid of the smell, that would be a great thing. I don't know so much about theirs because I don't, you know, I go by there, but I haven't really noticed a real smell from their place. But the one just next door to them off of C, I do, and it's pretty horrid. But anyway, if they could control that, that'd be great. One of the issues that I have found is, I don't know if they're using it for living space. I see campers there, the big house, the other small building in the back. There's a lot of people there all the time, and mostly younger kids. They park up and down the road if they can't get space inside. I don't know, that's 10 acres. They should be able to find place inside where they're not, you know, there's not traffic and stuff coming up and down. Now, they're not out in the middle of the road, but they're along the side and parked just kind of everywhere there. So the building, how tall is it going to be? I mean, how many tall buildings do we have out there that are marijuana growers? I mean, and then they leave the lights on all night long, and some of them, I don't know if that's his case. I mean, that's another situation where your neighbors basically have a night light all night. You know, they do, a lot of these people, agricultural people, want to see darkness, you know, and forget the daytime sometimes. So the water issue, I don't know if you're wanting to go commercial, you go commercial all the way. You don't go with a 3/4 line. And are you guys going to implement areas of this is what we say we're going to do, even though if we go commercial, now we could go huge because the law says we can. Is there going to be something implemented saying, okay, you got these amount of plants? I mean, really, nobody knows how many plants they grow and how many they bring in and how many, I mean, I could tell just by the clones they bring in from Colorado Springs. I mean, I was talking to a police officer and he tells me, Roger, you have no idea how many plants that they grow to make one grow. And it's like they're allowed to have 2,000 plants just to make 100 work. Is that right?
Oh, that's just like with any seedling. I mean, how many seedlings?
We'll give you a chance to respond.
Yeah, I would just,
Okay.
you know, people don't really know how many plants that they're working with.
Okay.
And I mean, I don't know how close if there's somebody going in and keeping track of it, but when we say we approve it, we really need to know exactly the amount of plants that's coming and going, where they're coming from, and you know, that type of thing. I know you guys are doing your job. It's hard work, and but it's hard to keep up with the whole county, I'm sure. Anyway, that's pretty much all I have to
Okay,
say.
thank you, Roger.
Did I need to fill anything out?
Yeah, just fill out a slip there, please. Anybody else have anything? I'll give you a chance. Okay, seeing no other hands shooting up in the air, I will now close the public hearing. And Ms. Park, I'll have you come up and respond to a couple of these.
Parking, if that's a cause for concern for folks on 8th Street, that's not a problem. We can reconfigure some of the things in our driveway to make a little bit better parking area for the employees that are working.
For the most part, though, that was just our seasonal influx of
harvest
employees for that month.
Yeah.
If you drive by there, we don't have that anymore. That's
Okay, how about the camping issues on the property?
There is,
we do have a camper.
we have a
that's stored
camper
there.
that's stored there, but it's not in use. It's just stored on the property.
So it's just stored on the property?
Yes.
Have you ever had anyone staying in a camper or an RV of any type there?
No?
No.
Okay.
As far as light's concerned, again, this would be a solid building, just like our previous one is. It's not a greenhouse with open ceilings, so there won't be any 24-hour lights going on, so we don't think that should be a concern.
What type of ceiling is it, or roof?
It's just gonna be a metal roof.
A metal roof?
Yeah.
Okay, so the lighting won't be an issue, all right,
Not at all, no windows.
okay.
When it comes to plant count, we are required every year with our application and any modification of premise to submit plant counts to you guys, so you do have that. Our current plant count right now between our 2 stores and the licenses on the facility is about 2,300. We didn't grow that many last year.
We only grew about 1,400.
Yeah, that's about all we have the space to grow.
And as far as clones and everything like that, that's just basic, just like any other crop. You start out with a ton of seedlings, and you pick your best ones, and you reduce from there.
Right.
So that's very common amongst, I believe, almost all agricultural practices.
And what was I going to say? The plant count. Oh, and there is a state tracking system where every single plant that we grow is required to have an RFID tag in it to be logged into the state tracking system.
Every seedling?
The clone batches are tracked, so you have to say how many clones you have in your batch, and then once you pick the ones you're going to grow into vegetative plants, you have to tag them. So the state has a real-time count of every plant that's on the property.
Okay.
But this also, building this building is helping us to consolidate our grow to just one facility, to streamline all of those processes and make it a lot more transparent and easy to manage and see what we're doing. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a couple of comments. One, I disagree with you again on the farming practices. I've planted thousands of acres of wheat and corn. Never used a seedling, it's seeds.
Well, for sure, but
For wheat and corn. Cannabis, you have to grow female
Yeah,
plants.
I've never grown cannabis, so I'm just
Well,
saying.
yeah.
You said it's a farming practice and it's
I'm
not.
talking
really.
about farming practices that use starters and seedlings. So.
And I had another one here, just a second. I have a concern too, because we do have some emails about the smell, and you claim with a new building that you'll have the same odor mitigation that you have in the current building.
Yes. I mean, it will be adapted to match the square footage.
Right.
It would have to be. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And then the other comment, I guess, is what you did is just cut the building down in this from the last time you applied for this modification. right?
Yeah, we got rid of the space that was going to be designated for more flower. So we reduced the cultivation flower area by 20% in hopes to.
Yeah, because the main concern that most people seem to have is the smell.
Yeah.
But that's what we're trying to illustrate. Like, that's not the intent of this building. We are not trying to facilitate that part of the system as much as the vegetative, holding up of our genetics, and the ability to harvest the crop when we need to harvest it. I'm standing out there watching my crop die, just like every farmer.
Because of the frost.
Because of the frost.
Yeah.
Well, and
That's
lots of space.
something that you can't predict anyway.
Exactly. But if I have the room to cut that crop down and bring it inside and hang it, then I can mitigate those losses. And that's really what that multi-use part of that building is for. It's for that ebb and flow. It is not for, flowering crops year-round.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on this? I think we've gotten a lot of information here today, and we're going to have to digest this one.
So, Mr. Chair, I do have a motion.
Okay?
First, I would like to say, I know how frustrating, because I do. I know and understand how frustrating it is for the applicant, for the proponents, and for the opponents of any particular application that we have. You come today, you sit here, you listen, and you want an answer. And I understand that, but there are times that we have to digest some information. We have to have a discussion amongst ourselves. What does this mean? What does this mean? Do we believe this? Do we not believe this? Exactly what do we choose to do with this? The best and really the only way that we can have that conversation and to create a set of what we call findings that will support whatever decision we eventually make. Until we start working on those findings, we don't really know what we have. We can't really see what we have. And therefore, Mr. Chair, I move to table request OPC 14-001 as a modification to table it to the November 26th board meeting.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to table this to 11/26 so we can deliberate this and digest some of this information that we got today. And I do want to say that in the past, you've been accused, I'll say it this way, you've been accused of not being real forthcoming. Today, I think you made vast improvements on that. So thank you for that. So with that, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
I just have one thing. You brought up the smell, and if you could get the smell and the light to go away, nobody would ever complain.
And that's
Period.
really what we're trying to do with this building. It really is. So, you know, the faster I can get that crop out of the field, the faster it doesn't smell.
Maybe in
Okay.
the future we'll have genetically modified weed that doesn't have a smell.
It's been moved and seconded. Anything else?
Yeah, I just would like to make the comment, I hope you all understand that at that meeting on the 26th, which incidentally has been moved from a Tuesday to a Monday, the meeting will begin at 9:30 a.m. This will not be a public hearing. You will not have opportunity at that time to come forward with further discussion. I just want you to all understand that.
Okay. Anything else? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Commissioner McFall?
Aye.
Commissioner Payne?
Aye.
Motion
Okay,
carries.
thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your time.
All right.
Thank you.
Move on to item number 2 under public hearings. We have a request for an SRU, which is a special review use, 18-002 for Deer Mountain Fire Protection District. It's a special review use, like I said. Do we have Elaine Foster with us? No?
I'm Karen McKee, I'm the original applicant,
Okay,
and Elaine had surgery, she's unable to attend.
okay. And your name again was Karen
Karen McKee.
McGee, okay.
This is Board Director Patrick Smith.
Okay,
All right. Good morning. Thank you.
Sir, what was your name?
Patrick Smith.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I'd like to start off by emphasizing that this SRU application before you today is for Station 4 only. The proposed Station 4 is located at the intersection of P Path and County Road 27A in the southern part of our district. This station should not be confused with any other Deer Mountain station. In the original SRU application exhibit 5.1, it was stated that the intention was to move a building from Station 3 to Station 4. This is no longer the plan, as Deer Mountain was granted a variance to keep the Station 3 building in its present location. A letter was sent to Planning and Zoning that stated that Station 3 building would not be moved. Therefore, Station 3 and this SRU application for Station 4 are unrelated. The proposed Station 4 property came available at an affordable price in an ideal location. It is hoped to erect a 2-bay building to house 1 fire truck and 1 ambulance to improve first response service to the southern part of the district, Custer County, and Oak Creek Grade, our mutual aid partners. 40% of Deer Mountain runs this year have been in this southern area of high demand. Deer Mountain has 5 EMTs and 5 firefighters that live closer to the Station 4 location than to Station 1. This includes the fire chief, who is both a firefighter and an EMT. The chief and other first responders drive by Station 4 location to get to Station 1. When there is a call in the southern part of the district or Custer County, presently in some cases, the first response personnel must go to Station 1, get an ambulance or a fire engine, and then turn around and go back south. Having first response equipment at Station 4 could potentially cut response times for some incidents by 20 minutes or more to an area that is home to hundreds of people, including all of Cody Park, Colorado Acres, Beckwith Ranch, and Bull Domingo. 20 minutes could be the difference between life and death or a fire becoming out of control. Of approximately 225 runs this year, Deer Mountain EMS responded to 75.5% of the runs, and Deer Mountain Volunteer Fire Department has responded to 30.7 runs. You can see on your handout, and I'll show you on this map, the run distribution for this year to date. Highway 12 in north, excluding Indian Springs, this area has been 3.1% of our runs. The western part of our district, along 1A and 69, 4.4% of our runs. The Highway 50 corridor, 15.1% of our runs. Indian Springs, we've had 0 runs this year to date. The northern section of Deer Mountain, from this line up, screen area, 33.8% of our runs. This small area here consists of 30.2% of our runs, and we have another 11% of our runs in Custer County and Oak Creek grade. So you can see that the southern area of the district, along with Custer County and Oak Creek grade, constitute 40% of our runs. Station, the PPAS station would be right here, in the center of this.
Where's Fire Station 1 on there?
Fire Station 1 is right here.
And where is 3?
3 is in Indian Springs.
Okay. Do you have a station 2?
It is in Cotopaxi proper.
Is it manned? Do you use it?
We have a truck there for the school, but it's not manned.
Okay.
Because all of our runs are in this area, 60-some%, we're manning Station 1.
Okay, thank you.
We realize that there are some people here today from Indian Springs who oppose this venture, but perhaps they don't realize that it's the Deer Mountain Fire Protection District's responsibility to take everyone's needs into account, not just the needs of a few people. It is hoped that these people opposing Station 4 will think about the other members of this district. Indian Springs personnel need to understand that whether Deer Mountain gets an occupancy permit for the new building at Station 3 or not, the fact is it will not affect their quality of service that Indian Springs receives. There's a fire station at Station 3 in Indian Springs, and occasionally there are 2 people in the area to run it. One of those firefighters is frequently out of the area and has his house up for sale. People need to realize that it doesn't matter if that same truck is located in the old building or the new building. It won't change their quality of service. Additionally, there are no EMS people in Indian Springs affiliated with Deer Mountain, so completion of Station 3 will have no effect on their EMS service. We ask that you please concentrate solely on the matter before you and the benefits of community. Thank you.
Okay, any questions?
Yeah.
Can I say something else?
I got a couple.
This
You are,
This is Chief Joe Watts.
Yeah, she had a question about being manned. We are not manned at any station. We are manned for EMS only. So our fire is not manned at any of the 3 stations.
Thanks.
You can stay here.
so I have a couple of questions. We're going to focus on this Station 4, but I have some questions about Station 3. You guys did get the variance for that. There's a drainage problem up there, as well as the building permit expired in May.
Correct.
What's the status of Station 3?
The Deer Mountain has budgeted funds to work on the drainage next year, and we are looking to get a solid plan, revised plan for the drainage that the county agrees to, and to proceed with correcting the drainage issues.
So does it have a truck in it now, or is it still in the old green building?
There's a truck in the old building, not the new building.
The other thing is, a couple of years ago, I know the board switched hands a couple of times, but it's back to where it was, so to speak. You guys pledged, or however you want to say that, to man the Cotopaxi station 12 hours a day. That fell to 10, now it's down to none. That bothers me with the school being right there. What's the response time from Station 1 to Cotopaxi right now?
20 minutes.
And as you said in your deal, 20 minutes makes a lot of difference between a life or a fire getting out of control. So that kind of, I have a problem with that. Let me see here.
May I comment on that?
Sure.
So 64% of our runs are here. And the last board did stop manning Station 2 and then started manning Station 1. And are manning EMS 10 hours a day.
Mhm. So I realize there's 60%, as you say, in this one area, but that 60% is no more valuable or less valuable than the 1% over somewhere else.
That's correct.
This Station 4, how far is it from Station 1?
Approximately 4.5 miles.
So how much is 4.5 miles going to effectively improve the service?
Greatly. If you have a seizure or cardiac event, it makes everything in the world. I mean, you have a seizure, you need medical treatment right now. You don't need it 20 minutes later, especially with a seizure. If you have a cardiac event, it might be the difference between running CPR and just making sure this person doesn't get to that point. It's a no-brainer. I mean, faster EMS can get to a call in Bull Domingo, anywhere around that area. It's not just there. We're also running into Custer, running mutual aid into Custer. And we would go clear past Westcliff into another. So at 12 o'clock at night, we're getting out of bed, we're going all the way to Station 1, where Station 4 is right there on the line. It's really a no-brainer. It cuts down on somebody's, being able to exist to go on and fight another day. That's all.
So where it makes a difference is, where it greatly makes a difference is after staffing hours. And we have a lot of runs in the middle of the night. And so Joe, who lives about 2 miles from that station, he comes out of his driveway and the station's right there, or out of his entrance to Cody Park. The station's right there, and he can go anywhere in that southern area.
So, Chief, let me ask you a question. If you have a call, let's just say on the Custer County, Fremont County line, do you leave your house and go to the station, or do you report to the scene?
We have backup people that are running as far as EMS. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, yes, sir.
EMS. We have people that are on night duty. The people that are on duty the same day, they run the night stuff. So if they're in the east end, north end, whatever of that area, they're the ones that goes to the and mans the ambulance. If it's a cardiac, I automatically go because you need more hands-on. You can never have enough people on a cardiac event if you're running CPR. It all depends. If fire comes into like a landing for life flight or anything like that, I'm always there. Fire, I've always run. Our EMS is pretty much self-efficient now. We've made it that way. We've made big strides, but it still doesn't. Yes, I do. To answer your question, I do run EMS when I am needed. If there was something back in Cody Park, Bull Domingo, anywhere around there, I would be running first. I've got a med bag in my truck.
Without going to the station?
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay. That's all I've got for now.
I do have a question.
Okay.
Much of what you just explained to us, Karen, is who lives where and how long it takes your personnel to get from their home somewhere and then back to wherever they need to go. My concern is personnel changes over time. So you're not going to have those same people living in those same areas. And so I guess I'm looking maybe for reassurance that you're not looking to do this specifically because 1 or 2 or 6 people live in the right area for this to actually be located.
It's not specifically for that, and the more we grow, the more people we get in that area. When I wrote this SRU, we have another EMT that has joined that lives in that area. The SRU said there were only 4 EMS personnel. Now there's 5. And they're EMTs, not just drivers or firefighters. So it does constantly change, but they live in that area as much as they live in the north area.
Okay, because you're the one who had presented this information that they live much closer to this area. So I'm just drawing attention to that.
So are you getting a grant to build the actual building?
So at this point, we don't have a means of funding it. It won't be done. Probably it will be done in phases. And until we do we can't, okay, let me get my head on straight here. Until we know we can build the building, we can't go out and start doing fundraising activities because we can't sell a project that we don't even know that we're allowed to build. So it's not going to happen until we do fundraising and trucks maybe go out on more national fires. And also, there's there's a rumor going around that Cody Park is willing to contribute a very sizable donation to this project.
Let's volunteer help.
Yes, and we do have volunteers that are gonna donate time to help cut costs.
Okay.
So rumors are just that.
No, it's more than a rumor, and I'm here to speak to that.
Okay, all right.
So also, you have very clearly explained to us what your current percentage is for running calls where. Do you have history on that information? What were the percentages a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago?
I could come up with that, but I did not go through all the past years. I just worked on this year's year-to-date.
So that's year to date?
Yes, this is year-to-date.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Have a staff report, please.
Okay. This application has been in front of the Planning Commission and had lengthy discussions about location and priority within the protection district with regard to, and the Planning Commission recommended denial. This 6-0 vote. The department review of the application, we found it to be complete and a true representation as requested, as stated herein. The department finds all requirements of Fremont County zoning and development regulations to be satisfied. However, there are a couple of contingency items. One has to do with a driveway access permit from the Fremont County Department of Transportation, and then any requirements by the Fremont County engineer upon review of the drainage report. Without complete construction plans, it's hard to do a drainage study. They are asking a waiver of buffering and landscaping, hard surfacing, and hard surface handicap parking, and the lighting plan. We did send out some additional notifications to Colorado Parks and Wildlife, Fremont County Historical, the County Sheriff, the City of Canyon City, Water Department, since it's in the watershed for the City of Canyon City, and received no comments.
Okay. Any questions?
Not at this time.
All right.
May I comment on, the planning commission denied this application because they got it confused with Station 3. Because we were talking at that time about moving the building, because we were at that time being required by the county to move the building, and that is no longer the case. And also I wanted to add that in addition to the waivers that he mentioned, we also are requesting a waiver of the SRU application, and that's an application item number 55.
Okay. All right, this is a public hearing, so I will now open the public hearing. We have several slips up here for people to speak, so we'll go through them one at a time here. First up, Lester Lyman. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Lester Lamone. I am the, first of all, I live at 919 Rosebush Road, but I am the owner of Lot 159 in Indian Springs. So I'm a landowner in Indian Springs. Earlier this year I took the position of chair of the Station 3 Building Committee that's only represented by Indian Springs and Indian Springs interests. It was brought to me by Scott Fallis, who is our board chair in Indian Springs. He asked me to be a fresh face, to work diligently with Deer Mountain to resolve the building issues that we've experienced in the last couple of years with Station 3. And so I began that in earnest this year. I've identified myself to the board of Deer Mountain, and I've been working very positively, in my opinion, with them. And as a show of their working with me, they included the money for the drainage in their 2019 budget just recently. They have yet to ratify the budget, but they'll do that tomorrow, I assume. So I've been working very hard to form a good relationship with this new board so that we can bring some resolution to it. There are residents. I'm not a resident of Indian Springs. My property is still undeveloped, so I'm just a landowner. But residents that have been working with the Deer Mountain folks, the Deer Mountain board, the previous board, and now this one, to facilitate a project in Indian Springs that brought mutual benefit to Deer Mountain for proximity to the north part of the county, and then obviously benefit to Indian Springs to have that fire protection there. So they're concerned because our project is unfinished, and again, it's my goal to work patiently and deliberately with this board to make sure that we have a good plan in place for Station 3, that it does get completed. Certainly we don't have an opinion on how they expand. We don't have an opinion on their strategies for truck placement or personnel placement. We don't have an opinion on how they run their fire EMS service that so many are dependent on, and we understand that. What we do have an opinion on is that we get our project completed. So it was asked of me today to come and deliver the message that we're working positively toward them. To stand in opposition of this, I hope doesn't ruin that. But we, residents of Indian Springs, feel strongly that we have a priority of projects from Deer Mountain. They're going to have other sources for Station 4, and that's fine, but we don't want to be forgotten. Indian Springs doesn't want to be forgotten. And we want to forge a new positive relationship with this board, and to be patient. We understand patience. We understand budgets. We understand funding sources. We understand all of those things, and that's my job as the chair of this committee. But we want to remind the commission that it's important to prioritize projects and to complete projects. And so we on the building committee and we in the Springs want to continue to work in that direction. But again, I want to deliver the message to the commission that we ask for some sort of prioritization. We would sure have more hurt feelings if Station 4 were to suddenly get completed and Station 3 still didn't have a funding source, or Station 3 still didn't have a prioritization.
Okay.
That's the message I want to deliver.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, I have a Joseph Cascarelli. Did I say that right?
Yeah, it's good. You said it like almost like an Italian.
Almost.
My name is Joe Cascarelli, and I am president of the Cody Park Property Owners Association. I also live less than a third of a mile from the proposed lot. I'm pretty sure once it's built, I will be able to see it from my driveway. I just have can I ask a quick procedural question? Who is our commissioner? Cody Park.
I'm the District 3 Commissioner.
Dwayne McFall.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, just to confirm, rumors. Yes, Cody, well, let me just give you a little background on Cody Park. Cody Park is about 230, 35-acre ranchettes. I've been an owner since 1993, and this is my second term as president. I was president in the mid-90s for 3 years, and I am the outgoing president right now. I'm going from memory, but I really know Cody Park very well, and I have come up with a list of 26 homes in Cody Park that have full-time residents. So, and there are probably an additional 12 to 15 that could house full-time residents, but are summer, part-time facilities. So there's a lot of development. Just by way of background, when I bought in 1993, we really didn't have any services at all. The east end of Cody Park, where my home, log cabin, existed, was out of the Deer Park fire area. And we engaged in about a 3-year fight with the courts to get ourselves included. As it turned out, we just paid a fee, and individual lot owners were able to get themselves included in the Deer Park. I'm not really sure what the status is right now, whether it's about a third of the 230 acres. When in my first term as president, here's what we did fire-wise. We installed about 15 buried water tanks. What they were is burnt out or reconditioned oil well tanks around Cody Park for firefighting. And so why would we go to the expense of doing that? Well, it's very simple. At the time, the Deer Park fire equipment was so ancient that they told us that they could not get up our hills filled with water. So what we decided to do was place about 15 tanks around Cody Park so that they could come in the case of an emergency and have a place to fill up so that they could fight the fires. Look, I'm a city boy. You can probably tell from my accent. Lived in Colorado for 35 years, in rural Colorado. And it takes a little getting used to with volunteers, but I gotta tell you something. God bless these guys, these volunteers. I spent 12 years on the Custer County Sheriff's Posse. A good deal of our time was spent on roadblocks and guarding homes that were vacated because of fires. So I have a little experience as to just how valuable we consider these guys. And my urging of this board is to help them. Don't handicap them. I was listening. I thought my brain was going to explode with the pot stuff. But don't help us. I got to tell you something right now. We have a fire back there. There hasn't been a fire on my property in Cody Park, where my hunting cabin was. We had a ponderosa pine that was it had to be 100 years old. We haven't had a bad fire back there. There is so much fuel. We're going to have a lot of dead people. You're reading about a lot of dead people in Northern California right now. We're going to have a lot of dead people. We could use all the help we can get. And as far as these people not living there, look, we estimate that about a third of our lots in Cody Park every year change hands. Yes, people leave, new people move in. I hope they're young new people. I just turned 74, which is why I retired from the Custer County Sheriff's Posse. It's not easy for an old guy like me to climb a ladder even to fix a small thing on our house. But the fact of the matter is, we need some young people, and I hope that we do get some young people that can help out and join. So the fact that the houses are there, and they are occupied now by volunteers, as I said, I say God bless them. We have a little helicopter. I have seen many of my friends leave for the last time, Flight for Life, in the years that I've been in Cody Park. Look,
okay.
ladies, you've got to help them.
Thank you. And if you think your head's exploding, you ought to hear us.
No, I'm serious. Dwayne, you've got to help them. Don't come up with all kinds of reasons. Well, you know, we're worried about the shrubbery around them. Help these guys help us.
Okay.
Because we're in a lot of trouble without them.
Thank you.
Oh.
The rumor.
It's no rumor. We have $4,000. This is not out of Cody Park dues. Every year, when people pay their dues, there's a little extra box that they could throw in 25, 50, or $100 towards our fire dependence, to our fire protection. So this is a fund that's been accumulating. And yes, if the only thing we want from these guys is we want a specific letter of intent that says this is where we're going to spend the money. I can tell you right now, I could look at all these full-time and part-time owners and people with vacant land, and they're going to tell you, spend the money, help them out with the $4 grand. I don't know how far that'll go to building this little fire station, but we're ready to give that money.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up, I have Nancy Reed. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, Fremont County Board of Commissioners. It's been a long time coming for me to speak to you, and I so appreciate this time. My name is Nancy Reed. I have lived in the community of Indian Springs for 20 years. I have been on the Isla Spring Board, Landowners Association Board, ISLA, for the last 5 years. That's the entire time we've had a relationship with Deer Mountain. On behalf of our community, we are requesting that Deer Mountain's permit be denied because Deer Mountain has an obligation to finish Station Number 3 in Indian Springs before it spends tax dollars on a new station across the district from Indian Springs without concern for the Fremont County Wildfire Protection Plan and sensible fire protection management. And we are talking about fire protection, not EMS, which has been it seems like an expanded area that Deer Mountain is going in on. I don't know, but we're talking about fire protection. Indian Springs is in the northernmost part of Deer Mountain. The Fremont County Wildfire Protection Plan identified Indian Springs as the highest priority fire hazard area. Deer Mountain has not completed and has no plans to complete its firehouse in Indian Springs that it began in early 2017. Deer Mountain is instead proposing a Station Number 4 that would be 31 miles from Indian Springs and only 4.5 miles and 8 minutes from Station 1, which holds all of Deer Mountain's equipment and trucks. Deer Mountain is pursuing this permit knowing full well that when we had a devastating house fire in November of 2014, the quickest response was just under an hour. There are 3 reasons we are asking you to deny Deer Mountain's permit request. Deer Mountain has a written agreement with Indian Springs to construct a firehouse and has not complied with its obligations. Both the Fremont County Planning Commission and the Board of Zoning Adjustment recognize the priority need to complete the Indian Springs firehouse. And third, Indian Springs has complied with all its written obligations, paid taxes every year to Deer Mountain, and generously donated an additional $20,000 for the firehouse construction. As to our first point, Deer Mountain signed a memorandum of understanding with Indian Springs in April 2016, in which Deer Mountain offered to build a firehouse where emergency response vehicles, equipment, and water could be stored year-round. Year-round water storage is essential. We didn't have it for the house fire, which was in late November of 2014. In addition to other provisions, Deer Mountain promised to provide storage for Indian Springs Community Truck. Deer Mountain has not complied with any of their promises, and I would like to give you a copy of our signed memorandum of understanding.
Is this the same thing as the written agreement you just talked about?
Yes.
It's the same thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Deer Mountain began construction in early 2017, but it stopped all construction in August of 2017 because of 2 problems, the storm drainage and the setback. The Deer Mountain board voted to approve $3,300 to fix the storm drainage in August of 2017, but has not fixed the drainage, letting another summer fire season go by this past year. Currently, Deer Mountain has an old brush truck in our shed that they now own, as agreed to in the Memorandum of Understanding. Part of it is that we would give them our old shed. And they will not allow Indian Springs residents to access our snowplow. Prior to our MOU, we owned the shed and allowed the Deer Mountain brush truck to be stored with our snowplow. Now that Deer Mountain owns our shed, it will not allow residents to access the building. Our plow truck now sits outside on a resident's property. This was true during the 2 recent heavy snows when our roads needed to be plowed. So now we don't have a firehouse and we no longer have a place to store and access our community snowplow. We are distressed to be in a worse position than before Deer Mountain proposed this station number 3, and it was their proposal. Deer Mountain originally stated that having a good truck stationed in Indian Springs would enable firefighters to arrive quickly and access that truck. They would provide a more rapid response for Indian Springs and other areas in the northern part of the district. Deer Mountain approached us with the offer of a new truck if there was a new building. When Deer Mountain came before the Planning Commission in June with this current permit request to use tax dollars for another building instead of completing station number 3, Indian Springs objected before the Planning Commission with regards to this permit request. And this all goes to our second reason to ask you to deny their request, because both the Fremont Planning Commission and the Board of Zoning Adjustment, in addressing the 2 problems that were stalling construction, agreed Deer Mountain should complete station number 3. The Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend the county commissioners deny this application. In part, Chairman Alsup stated, and this is on the website, he rarely does this, but as someone involved in fire protection for over 25 years and on the Planning Commission for 8, he has never seen a proposal come before him that makes less sense than this one does. It makes no sense at all from his perspective. The Indian Springs area is the farthest from all of the resources, and according to the county wildfire plan, is one of the most vulnerable areas in the whole county. He then looked at it from an ethical standpoint. And Deer Mountain is obligated to provide fire protection to these people. They are obligated because these people are paying taxes to them and have also given them cash and land. And now Deer Mountain is taking away the one thing that they need to start a decent fire department there. Chairman Alsup stated that he could not, in good conscience, support this proposal at all. The setback problem was resolved in July of this year when the Board of Zoning Adjustment granted the variance request to bring the building into compliance. Upon granting the variance, Ed Norden, former chair of the Board of County Commissioners, stated in part in the BOCC draft minutes, he has been through this before with Deer Mountain and Cotopaxi. At that time, the Deer Mountain Board went forward with building a structure without a building permit and built it on county property as well as private property and on top of the boundary line. He stated that historically it seems that someone at Deer Mountain would rather ask for forgiveness than permission. He is not of a position to want to penalize the taxpayers in Indian Springs, but went on to say, at some point, we are not going to grant variance after variance after variance for the misdeeds of board members past or future. As taxpayers, he asks for their vigilance with what the board is doing so that they do not have to revisit this again. Next time, he may not be of a mind to support another variance. At the end of the hearing, Elaine Foster, Deer Mountain Vice Chair, stood up and stated that the drainage problem would be corrected at whatever expense. The drainage has not been corrected despite her representation to BOCC. Instead, Deer Mountain has expended $12,000 purchasing land and a survey for station number 4. The third reason to deny Deer Mountain's request is that Indian Springs has complied with all our agreed upon obligations under the MOU to survey and donate land. to seek a 1-acre outlot from the county, and to convey ownership of our shed. That's our provisions in the MOU, and we have complied with all of them. In addition, we pay taxes of $10,000 to $11,000 every year for the last 5 years. And lastly, Indian Springs has generously donated $20,000 toward construction of the building. Some of this so embarrasses me because I have been involved from the beginning with all of these decisions along the way. In early 2017, I was contacted by an elderly landowner who wanted to donate her land to Indian Springs. Our board discussed her offer, and in recognition of the cost of the firehouse, we asked the landowner to donate her land to Deer Mountain instead. Deer Mountain sold the donated land for $9,900. In March 2017, an Indian Springs landowner purchased a wood chipper for $11,000. The Indian Springs landowner who did that is not here today because she is beyond disgusted.
Ms. Reed, we need you to wrap this up,
I
please.
will. I'm
Okay.
sorry. It's all been very important to me, but yes. After she used her the wood chipper, she wanted to give it to us, but we said no. Give it to Deer Mountain so everyone in the district could use it, and it could be available for fire mitigation. Well, less than a year later, Deer Mountain sold it for $10,000, and now we have to pay for wood chipping when we do our community fire mitigation efforts. And in addition to the money we've donated, we've spent hundreds of volunteer hours and thousands of dollars on roadside mitigation. We've done a fire break east and west across the community and widened our roads for Deer Mountain's emergency vehicles to be able to use. So we believe Deer Mountain should be praising and supporting us in our efforts and not abandoning us. So in conclusion, and I thank you for bearing with me, Indian Springs requests the Deer Mountain permit be denied for 3 reasons: that they've not finished construction of the firehouse, that it is under an obligation in its written agreement, that Indian Springs has a right to a firehouse as acknowledged and supported by the Planning Commission and the Zoning Adjustment Board, and that we have complied with all of our obligations and paid taxes and donated $20,000. So we are asking, before moving on with station number 4, that the drainage be corrected, that improvements and a certificate of occupancy for station number 3, and that in a binding agreement where we have a place to store our snowplow. The denial of this permit request by this body would send a necessary wake-up call to Deer Mountain that it should abide by its agreements and provide fire protection resources where they are needed throughout their district. It is unclear how the Deer Mountain Board makes its decision, but it seems to have nothing to do with its word, responsibilities, or the needs of its district. And I really appreciate very much and am grateful for your time and consideration.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The SRU should be denied for construction of Station 4, at least at this time, because the priority should be to complete one project before starting another. Deer Mountain has delayed and obstructed in terms of completing this project, and we think that it is time for that project to be completed before they engage in another effort at spending a lot more money on still another project. The problem here has been that Indian Springs has complied with all of its obligations under its agreement with the Deer Mountain Fire Protection
I think Ms.
District.
Reed was pretty clear on that.
And Deer Mountain has not done so with regard to its project concerning us. We are worried that even the Station 4 project may not be completed. The last time we went to a Deer Mountain Protection District meeting, they said they didn't have $750 for the variance application fee, and they moved to table discussion of paying that fee after they had asked us to write the variance application paperwork. which we did and spent many hours doing it. And then they turned around, after asking us to apply for the variance, they turned it around and tried to quash that process. We protested, and then miraculously, the $750 appeared.
Okay, well, what we need to do is focus on the land use issue on this Station 4 for this SRU. That's what all of us need to focus on, who spent money on what, or a wood chipper. We need to focus on the land use issues, okay?
Yes, and
Okay.
that's what we are doing in terms of our opposition to this project. We think it's a vast misuse of priorities, and it's not in accordance with any plan. It seems to have been a spur-of-the-moment decision by Deer Mountain to do Station 4 when they thought that they had to tear down the building at Station 3. They were looking for a good place to put that building that they were intending to tear down. Instead, they went ahead and bought that land, deciding that they would tear it down and move it there. But then we got the variance application. So this is a last-minute decision on their part. This is not a long-term plan that they have had in effect to provide greater EMS or fire protection services to other parts of this district. And that is why we oppose it.
Okay, appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Jim Bradburn. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How y'all doing today?
Morning. Doing good.
My name is Jim Bradburn. I live about 3/4 of a mile down Copper Gulch Road or south of the site of Building 4. Obviously, as a homeowner, and I've been there for a little over 14 years, I think anything that improves the protection of fire protection and EMS, I'm almost 74 myself, is a good idea, and I support it. One of the things I've been in business for years and years, and I've learned not to try and micromanage other people's businesses. It seems to me that all of you seem to be wanting, by some of the testimony here, to be getting involved in the management of Deer Mountain Fire District. Whether or not they're doing a good job or a bad job, I don't know. All I know is whenever I had a problem with my house, they've come and they've been very supportive, and I continue to be very supportive of them. I'm not on their board. I don't know all the things that went on, gave rise to all these decisions about Indian Creek, but I do think that having further protection out into the county broadens the expanse and the availability and reduces the time frame it takes to get to those homes, and I think that is a good idea. So I think the money is there, and I'm very much in support
Okay.
of this facility. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next up, I have Bob Mayer. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. My name is Bob Mayer. I live just close to where Jim Bradburn lives and also where Joe Cascarelli lives. I've been a property owner for 19 years. I'm a retired insurance broker, and seconds matter. If Station number 4 will eliminate seconds off response time, not only for fire but for EMS, we're 100% in favor of the new station. Was not aware of the issues with Indian Springs, but I think that has no relevance to putting a fire station closer to Cody Park. We're in the southern end of the Fremont County, and response time at this point will be improved, from what I understand, by having a station at the proposed location. So we are 100% in favor of the new location. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's the end of my list of folks. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak? Come on up, have you fill out a form.
Hi, my name's Peggy Kabusian, and I also live in Cody Park. We're all very interested in fire mitigation where we live. We've been doing a lot of work, but we're also very aware of response time in terms of fires started by lightning It's happened 2 or 3 times in Cody Park. And to have the station that much closer would be important. And as you can see, all of us that have come up here, we're all in our 60s and 70s, and having an ambulance closer is also why I would approve this from Deer Mountain to put in the added thing. It's not that big a deal that they're asking for one small building to house one ambulance and 1 fire truck. We would all appreciate to have them that much closer. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you have you fill out a slip, we do it over here. Joe, come on up.
Yes, sir. This meeting is about Station 4 and Station 4 only. I could go back and forth with Indian Springs and say why things are not what they should be up there. And I can tell you right now, we can't force people to join the fire department. We have no people in Cotopaxi. We have 2 people in Indian Springs, and one of them is gone most of the time, and he has his house up for sale. Whether we have a big truck, 20 trucks up there, it is not going to make a difference. Every life to me that I'm responsible for, I take it personally. We cannot do anything. We cannot force Indian Springs people to join our fire department. We had 3 that joined, never engaged. So tell me how I can help Indian Springs, whether it's in one building or another, that same truck is responding to a fire. And how Indian Springs Station 3 is involved with Station 4, I have no idea. And I close with this. What's one life worth? You have a ambulance that's 20 minutes closer to somebody having a cardiac event or stroking out. What is that worth to you guys? Huge, right? You have an ambulance right there on their doorstep means everything. Just because I keep a trauma bag in my truck and I get to that resident on the back of Cody Park, Bull Domingo, wherever, I still have to have the ambulance back me up. I can only do so much before we need a Life Pack 15 or anything in there and monitoring what his vitals are. It's a no-brainer. Maybe the board does not have the money to build this thing right now. We're looking to the future, but we need this property to advance and make it good for Cody Park, Bull Domingo, everything in Custer County. It's really, it's a no-brainer to me. What is one life worth?
Okay, thanks, Chief. Anybody else? Come on up. Have you sign a slip, please.
Thank you. My name is Jan Clopton, and I also am a resident full-time of Cody Park. And I just wanted to express our concerns about fire and response time. My husband and I bought our property in 2000, and when we were building, my husband had a terrible accident, and we called 911, and the ambulance response time was terrible. And it ended up that we had volunteers that showed up long before an ambulance, and I had to drive my husband down to Canyon. And so if there's anything that you can do to help us with shorter response time, it's greatly appreciated. And we also are taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Have you fill out a slip, please. Anybody else? We good? Come on up.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Omiria, and my husband and I also are property owners in Cody Park. And I just want to show my support for the station number 4. That is our happy place. We live in Colorado Springs and come down to enjoy the mountains, and it would just make it a happier place. So, and all of our neighbors are very friendly people. We wave to each other. It's a nice community, and just knowing that we have that support for the fire and response times.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else? We good?
My name is Mike Banks. I'm also a Cody Park property owner.
And I just want, I see a number of Cody Park people, if you would stand up, the ones that are here.
Could you address the board, please? Thank you.
Okay, so I just wanted you
Okay.
to see the kind of support we have up there for this project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Have you fill out a slip, please. Thank you for speaking. Anybody else? We good? All right. I will now close public hearing. Ms. McGee, if you want to respond to some of these, I'll give you that opportunity.
I have with me Board Chairman J.R. Niblett in case you want some responses. So my question to you is, do you want us to answer some of the Indian Springs concerns, or do you want to keep this matter separate? There are things that they have said that I can answer. I just don't know if that's appropriate in this meeting.
Personally, I'd like to stick with the SRU that's in front of us. I hesitate to get into another government entity's dealings as far as what they're spending money on, and that's. What do you guys got an opinion?
That's fine.
Good.
I
Okay.
can tell you that Deer Mountain Board does plan to complete Station 4 or Station 3, and they did work. JR personally worked on the drainage this year to make sure that the runoff wasn't going anywhere. Most of the runoff is coming down the roads, not off that property, and that's all I will say about that issue.
Okay. As board president, do you have any comments that you would like to make? I'll give you that. I'll give you that opportunity here.
Personally went up there. My name is J.R. Niblett. Kind of inherited this in January. I've asked Mr. McFall for his guidance in doing this. Joe, Chief Watts, and I have over 75 years experience fighting fire. Me running in Fort Worth, being a division chief, running the buildings and stuff like that, and personnel. This is a whole new experience to me. But I personally went up there myself, took my own tractor. I dug the drainage hole deeper, a lot deeper, and got stuck several times, but it took me nearly all day. But I've taken pictures of the drainage, how it came down into Mr. Lord's place, and I questioned why wasn't the drainage or the culvert, not the culvert, where they dig down on the side of the road.
Bardage.
Drainage, for the drainage, why was it done in whole Indian Springs but not right here in front of the station? And the answer was that the tractor driver won't do it right there. I believe Don had to come by and do it with his own personal tractor because there was conflict with Mr. Lord and whoever drove the big tractor. But I can say about Station 4 is, we had a fire with 2 deaths just, 8-9 weeks ago, right on Empath and 31st. We have the firemen there, the EMTs there. It wasn't an explosion. I was an arson investigator. It was not an explosion. But if they were there, I'm not saying they could, but it's possible that we could have contained the structure itself. Time we got there, I'm 67 years old. Left at 2 o'clock in the morning, had to go to Station 1, get equipment, go all the way back up there. But if we could have contained that, just put a slight stop on it, I'm not going to say what happened to the 2 individuals that we lost. You all probably know. But they could have contained it, and we wouldn't have gone through all of this, all what they had to go through. Bring somebody down from Denver and everything else. I've seen them, I've listened to the radio, I've even gone down personally myself. I've seen them come down to the station, get a ambulance, go back past P-Path, okay, get somebody that had a heart attack, and I went down because they said they were going to land a chopper, to help land the chopper itself.
I was one of the first paramedics to graduate in the state of Texas. Time is life. 3 minutes, 2 minutes, it's all life. And if we don't have this, it's helping the people down there. I could ask Ms. Jackson, the problem, and she could probably explain it to you, what I'm going into about Statute 32 right now, about appropriating money, for, that DOA says what we have to do. We were left in a debt, which we cannot be left in a debt by a board. That's why we have to lease our equipment to buy. We were left in a debt. So do we take it to, the people for a vote to finish Station 3? But I've talked to the Attorney General, one of the Assistant Attorney Generals, and I've talked to a couple lawyers to find out how we can finish that. But I know y'all are, it's Station 4, we really need it. As a fireman, a retired fireman that's still working, and Mr. McFall could tell you, I've called him many a time asking, how do you do this, how do you do that? And right now, we're on a budget. And I think we figured out a way.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, do we have any other questions, comments?
So I've got a couple of comments, and JR, you're absolutely right. We've talked.
No, you're good.
You're all right. We've talked several times, and hopefully I'm giving you the right advice on some things. But I have a hard time. Station 3 has nothing to do with Station 4 because it is a land use issue. As far as the land use issue goes, we received several emails from folks that are against Station 4, and a lot of those were because of Indian Springs. I totally understand Indian Springs' fault. You and I have talked about it several times. We both agree that it needs to be finished and finished correctly to get rid of all those problems. I hope that does get done.
I'm trying to get it done.
Yeah. Like I said, the building permit did expire, so you need to get with the building department on that too, as far as that goes. With it being a land use issue and everything that I've heard and everything that I've read, I don't see any reason that Station 4 should not have approval. So with that, Mr. Chair, I move that we approve. Let me get to the right spot here. Got so much stuff. SRU. The public hearing is
No,
closed.
public hearing is closed. Okay, go on.
I move that we approve SRU 18-002 for Deer Mountain Fire Protection District for Station Number 4.
Okay. I'm sorry, it sounded like you were continuing.
We have some contingencies. I'm sorry, I knew never shut down. We have contingencies. Need a driveway access permit from Fremont County Department of Transportation, and also engineering Fremont statements from the Fremont County engineer upon review of the drainage report, which will take a plan to have the drainage report. We don't want to have this same problem again in another location. With waivers for request for the buffering landscape, hard surface handicap parking space, and lighting plan.
And all the conditions.
And all the conditions, yeah, absolutely. Okay, I think I'm done now.
Are you sure? I will second that, just with the note that this has been a really interesting issue to sit up here and listen to and to deal with. And it truly is our only responsibility to deal with the application that is in front of us. It has to do only with Station Number 4. It has nothing whatsoever to do with Station Number 3. It also concerns me that this board not get involved with your board and with the everyday dealings of your board. It's not up to us to tell you how to run your department or how not to run your department. Our issue only is dealing with the land use. So I truly hope that all of you can understand that.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Just one more thing. I just to kind of tack on to what Commissioner Bell just said, I know what you folks in Indian Springs are talking about 100%. I've seen the project up there myself. I totally agree with you. You pay taxes. I hope that Deer Mountain Fire Department Protection can work with those folks, get those problems straightened out. It is your responsibility, Chief Watts, as you said, they are one life as well, and they're in your district. Whether they pay taxes to you or not, but they do. They are in your district, and it is your job to take care of them as well. So include them, and I hope that these frustrations can end.
Okay. Roll call.
Commissioner McFall?
Aye.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Commissioner Payne?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. I will, for those you want to leave, I'll give you a couple minutes to clear the room out, unless you want to stay for the very exciting proposed 2019 Fremont County budget. Good job. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to the third public hearing, which is our Fremont County budget, the proposed 2019 budget. Sunny, I guess you'll be leading us on.
I am, and next year I'm going to have this as the first public hearing to make people get as excited about finance as I am.
That won't matter. Then we'll put it at the end.
Okay, so I have a PowerPoint that I put together, and I appreciate all of you that have stayed to watch this. So here is the Fremont County 2019 proposed budget. The budget strategy for 2019 is to provide quality service to Fremont County citizens, providing a fiscally responsible county budget, preserving county assets, maintaining fund balance, and addressing increased requests and increasing expenses for 2019. So some significant issues that we're faced with this year include, we're currently projecting a 1.16% increase in assessed valuation from the 2017 assessment. So what that means is actually, according to the August preliminary mill levy certifications that came out from the Fremont County Assessor, we're actually estimating a decrease in general fund property tax revenue of $19,501 due to a decrease in the refunds and abatements. And so the assessed value went up, but this year the refunds and abatements had actually gone down. So what that means is general fund is going to see a slight decrease. However, the the Road and Bridge Department, the Department of Human Services, and the airport will all see increases in their property tax. So we are also projecting a retail sales tax increase of about 3% from the 2018 budget. So this year we're up about 2%, so it's about 1% of an increase from what we're at currently, so we're being very conservative with those numbers. We're also projecting auto use tax to be consistent with 2018 and same way with the construction use tax. So we're taking a very conservative approach to the budgeting for the revenues. Some other issues, we're proposing a 50-cent per hour raise to all employees, and this is actually the second year that we've been able to do this after actually being on a freeze from 2009, actually 2008 I believe was the last cost of living adjustment. So we're very excited to be able to give another proposed raise. And then we're going to continue to monitor the self-funded insurance. So Fremont County is partially self-funded, so we actually hit into our reserves substantially this year. We had a lot of claims, so we're monitoring that. We did propose for a raise in the insurance premiums. It hit the departments in September, and then it will be passed on to the employees in January. So other issues, we're addressing building improvement needs in various county-owned buildings, and we're keeping up with increased operational costs. I know everybody has seen that, including all of our citizens. And we're trying to build the reserves that we're actually needing to use for bridge replacement grants. So each year The County Department of Transportation goes through a bridge assessment, and they go through and they give us priority projects, which is one of them was the tunnel project for this year, but we have a whole list of bridges that need either full replacement or substantial repairs to the tunes of multi-million dollars. And so in order to be competitive in any of the grants that we're looking at, we have to have matching funds, so we've been working over the years to build those. So a quick overview of the total revenues from 2012 to what we're budgeting in 2019. So in 2012, we had $11.6 million, and actually there was about a $500,000 pass-through grant, so that's why that was up a little bit higher than other years. But if you can see over the last few years, we've slowly increased, and then starting in 2017, we went up about $400,000. We're estimating this year to be up again, but like I said, we're taking a conservative approach, and so we're budgeting 2019 at about $11.895 million for general fund revenues. Property taxes collected. This is the graph that shows that. So as you can see, we kind of took a dip in 2015 and have slowly gotten out of that. This year we're budgeting at $5,332,000. And then retail sales tax, we've seen a very steady increase over the past few years. So we're budgeting to be slightly up next year in comparison to this year's estimates. And then auto use tax collections, we're taking that same approach with the estimated in 2018. Since we were just a little bit behind with the clerk's reports, that number is down just a little bit, but by the end of the year, we're assuming that that will come in closer to what we had budgeted, which is about the same as what we're looking at for 2019. And then construction use tax, we actually are budgeting less than what we're estimating to end the year. We did have some higher building permits applied for, but we're budgeting about the same as what we had budgeted this year. So this is an overview of our summary of funds. So you can see the first column is each of the funds' beginning balance. That's what we're projecting going into the 2019 budget. The revenues for 2019 are in the second column, giving the total available, and then we have the expenditures in that fourth column with the estimating ending balance. So you can see we're estimating about So we're estimating $43,699 in total revenues, and then with an expense of $44,914,000. So we are, for specific projects, dipping into fund balance, but as you can see, the fund balances that are remaining are still very healthy. So the 2019 budgeted revenues, this is breaking it out by category. And then the next one actually gives a little bit better. It's a graph view, so it shows the majority of our revenues actually come in from intergovernmental revenues, which is mostly made up of the revenues in our Department of Human Services. So a lot of that passes through either federal or state agencies. The next piece is from sales and use taxes, and then it breaks it down from that. And then the 2019 budgeted expenditures. So this is the breakout here. And I do want to point out that we do have just over $5 million of interfund transfers budgeted. So general fund transfers just over $3.9 million to the Sheriff's Department, and then some other departments, the Weed Department, the Department of Health, and a few others actually get a general fund transfer. And then we receive PILT money, so it's payment in lieu of taxes, which comes from the federal government for properties that they own in Fremont County, and then that money is also transferred into others, so that makes up that $5.9 million of interfund transfers. So looking at this from a chart perspective, general fund is about 27% of the proposed expenditures. Sheriff's Fund is about 23%. Department of Human Services is 20%, and then it breaks down from there. So just a few of the next steps. So the budget is scheduled to be adopted on December 18th. So we're continuing to make adjustments. And like I said, the entire budget, it's broke down by line item. It's on our website. I would encourage everybody to go on and look at that. And if there's any questions, comments, concerns, please reach out to myself or one of the commissioners and we can address those. So we're going to continue to tweak it and finalize everything, and it will be scheduled for adoption on December 18th at 9:30, which is a special meeting. And as I said, it's on the website, and a paper copy is available up in the administration office in room 106 if anybody would like to stop in and review that. So that is the presentation. I'm happy to expand on any area that you all have questions on specifically or give any more information.
I'm sure Commissioner Bell probably has some questions.
You can always count on me. Unfortunately, it's not really a question. I simply would like to address the 50 cents an hour raise that we are budgeting again for the year 2019. This really came up in 2017, looking at the 2018 budget, mostly because of the changes that the state is requiring that voters voted in, the result of minimum wage being raised. And so when that lower level needs to go up, then every other level needs to go up as well. We had many conversations about how we were going to do that to kind of keep ahead of the curve and to make certain that our people were paid what they should be paid. We also realized at that time that we thought it was more fair to give a straight 50 cents an hour as a raise instead of doing some sort of a percentage, because when you do a percentage of a raise, the people who are already making more money will continue making more and more and more, whereas those who are really the line staff level will just make incrementally a little bit more. So we thought that it was a more fair thing to do. So the other thing I wanted to say was not only to Sunny, but to all of our department heads, our other elected officials, this is quite a process. It officially kicks off around the first part of August every year, but budgeting is something that happens pretty much every single month out of every year. And so when it finally is in format to present to us, we have the easy part. I mean, I simply will say that in all honesty, we do have the easy part. And just thank you, Sunny, to you and to your finance staff and to everyone else who participated in pulling this together.
Thank you. And I do want to reiterate what Debbie just said. I appreciate so much the departments, the staff, all of the elected officials that help get us information and numbers, and they do it very timely, and I'm very grateful that this is a smooth process. For as big of a budget as we have, it's a very smooth process.
You got anything? The residential assessment rate that all of us have heard a lot about with the Gallagher Amendment, that will hit us in 2020 along with other special districts. I don't want to get into this because it's a very complicated issue, but we need to look at that at 2020 if our legislature doesn't come up with some solutions. I know I sit on 2 special district boards and we're struggling with the same thing, and so but that is something we have to keep in mind on 2020. I'm one of those weird people that actually enjoy the budget process. I take it very serious that we're spending other people's money, and so Sunny does a great job, and I just want to thank her for that.
I'm certain you're not implying the rest of us do not take it seriously.
No, I'm not, and I didn't
Mr.
either.
Chair.
Although I did like your comment of more fair, that's dangerously close to more better.
No, it's not.
Okay, any other comments on the budget before we get way off track here?
Public hearing.
Yes, we do have a public hearing. That's right. I will now open the public hearing. Nah, okay. Come on up, Rich. Mr. Hildebrand, how are you, sir?
I am fine, thank you, sir. And this is just for lack of other comments, so I'll come up to have a public comment. Rich Hildebrand, Penrose, and I am sure that this is something that Commissioner Payne has already brought up, but I'm wondering about the investments that you have, and if you've moved those to the high interest banks where they pay maybe 2.5%, 3%. So at Penrose Water, that made a big difference in our budget. So I'll just ask about that investment.
That would be the county treasurer's department, is that correct?
Well, Sunny is our finance officer. Yep. She can address it.
Right. So actually, as Commissioner Payne said, it is the treasurer's responsibility to do the investments, but I will say that we have seen a substantial increase this year in interest income from moving it from some of the regular checking accounts that we've had into Colo Trust is what we use. And so there has been a substantial increase in those line items from making that one change.
Great, thank you.
Great
Thank you,
question.
Rich.
Thank you for that.
Well, to follow up that, I sit on the Upper Ark Water Board with Rich Hildebrand, and this came up, and this was quite a discussion on that up there for Upper Ark. That's kind of where that came from. Okay, anybody else? We're still in a public hearing. Okay, I will now close the public hearing. Okay. Wishes
This is a no action item,
This is no action.
Mr. Chair.
until
Till
that special
December
meeting.
18th.
Correct.
Till we do something else. Okay, let's move on. Get back to the agenda here. Item number 4 under new business. Appoint a new member to the Fremont County Airport Advisory Board for a 3-year term ending October 1st, 2021.
Mr. Chair, we did have a couple of different letters of interest for this current position. We did interviews with folks, and I would like to move at this time that we appoint Skip Moreau, also known as Lloyd Moreau, to a 3-year term that will end on October 1st of 2021.
We'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Commissioner McFall?
Aye.
Commissioner Payne?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Number 5, appoint a new member to the Fremont County Fair Board for a 3-year term ending December 31st, 2021.
Mr. Chair, at our last BOCC meeting, I pointed out that we were looking for some folks that might be interested in Fair Board, and we did receive a letter. And would like to move to appoint a new member to the Fremont County Fair Board, Grant Airy, for a 3-year term ending December 31st, 2021.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Other further discussion? I know Grant does a lot of work out there on the county fair, and he's one of these people who go, geez, why isn't he on the board? So I'm glad he is. So
He is no stranger, that's for sure.
that's true. Roll call, please.
Commissioner McFall?
Aye.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Commissioner Payne?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item number 6, reappoint Larry Brown to the Fremont County Planning Commission for a 4-year term ending December 31st, 2022.
Mr. Chair, we do have a letter from Mr. Brown asking for reappointment. I think he's been a good, effective member of Planning Commission. Therefore, I move to appoint Larry Brown to another 4-year term that will end on December 31st, 2022.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Commissioner McFall?
Aye.
Commissioner Payne?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item number 7, closure of the Fremont County Administration Building and Garden Park Building on December 12th, 3 o'clock for the annual administration Christmas party. Okay.
So there needs to be a lot said about that, I guess, huh? December 12th. Oh, my calendar just went here.
It's a Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday, okay. So we discussed, in the past, we have closed administration building on a Thursday, and it seemed to create some hardship, so we're trying to not do that. So this year we've agreed to do this on December 12th, which is a Wednesday, to have the Christmas party for the people who work in the administration building and Garden Park building. With that, Mr. Chair, I move that we approve closure of Fremont County Administration Building and the Garden Park Building December 12th at 3 p.m. for the annual administration Christmas party.
I second that, just with the note, as Commissioner McFall said, we have had this on Thursdays in the past. I do know and understand that our employees would prefer that we keep it on Thursdays, but I think it's imperative that we provide the best service that we can to the public, and we think that means closing for an afternoon on Wednesday instead of a
Okay.
Thursday.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner McFall?
Aye.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Commissioner Payne?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. With that, no further business coming before this board, just shy of 12 noon. We will be adjourned.
We will be, or we are?
We are.
Marshall, thank you.
I'm sorry, you don't need to wait on anything.
Generally, we do the signing and hand it over to you, and then we let you figure out what you need to do with it, because I just, morning, sir.